Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, where we talk about the panic level that we have on certain struggling hitters. We'll talk about some major pitcher injuries yesterday, or at least major pitchers. We don't know if they're major injuries. That and a whole lot more coming up on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Welcome, everybody, to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by Vivid Seats and Rival Fantasy. Appreciate their sponsorship, as always. I'm Jeff Erickson, here with Fred Zinkie, as we try to tackle a lot of, we could parse through our way of certain topics, topical issues of the day. I want to start off right off the top. Juan Soto is hitting 164. He has 3 homers. He's he struck out 17 times. He's also walked 17 times. But this is a definitely disappointing start to the season if you have Juan Soto. 11 runs, 7 RBI. Not what you're paying for when you get that first round pick.
No, I think it's always also, a lot more concerning when it comes on the heels of a down season the previous year, right? Like when it's a potential bounce back player, that's always the big concern, right? So now it's not, any other slow starter or a lot of other slow starters who are high picks. You're just like, well, whatever, guys. It's 2 bad weeks. It's 2 bad weeks. Just happens to be in April and not in July. It's 2 bad weeks. But when it's 2 bad weeks coming off, a down year last year where his OPS dipped about 100 points. And now we got another drop so far this year. You start to wonder, this is Juan Soto is 24 years old. And I would say 2 years ago, he was being discussed as possibly the best hitter in baseball.
Yeah. Pure generational, pure good hitter.
Yep.
And I kind of really think it all started about the time when the contract negotiations got leaked. And there's some dispute as to who leaked him when he was with the Nats, how he turned down that 15-year, $440 million offer, which, as we know from our history at the Nationals, a lot of that could be deferred. A lot of that could be different. That they have a history of kind of like presenting something as one thing, and it's really perhaps not quite that. But at any rate, you can almost tie his performance to that point. And then when he got traded to the Padres, he struggled last year. It wasn't like it's not like it's new this year that he struggled.
No, you're like you said, like his OPS with Washington wasn't great. It was 894, but then as soon as he got traded, well, not as soon as he was with the Padres, it dipped. So the 894 is about 100 points below the previous year, and then it dipped another 100 points roughly once he went to San Diego to 778. And then this year it's dipped almost another 100 points so far to 707. So we've got someone who is basically a 1000 OPS player or close to it in the first 4 seasons of his career who, during his time in San Diego has been like a 750, 730 OPS player. Like that is an enormous change. And now it's time to figure out why.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stats. First of all, though, I think part of the why is emotional, is mental. I think it's got to be. And in fact, there's an article in Sports Illustrated that discusses that a little bit there and how the trade talks and then the trade itself emotionally wrecked him. And that probably plays a part, at least in terms of last year. You would figure, though, that that's kind of passed a little bit this year.
You'd think. You'd have to think so. Like this, for someone like Soto, who's been an amazing baseball prospect for a long time and then had a great major league career to start and has clearly played sports under a lot of pressure and mental duress. Okay, sure. Like last season in the summer, maybe you were impacted, but he's been welcomed to San Diego with open arms, and that's a good team and a popular team. And he's a popular player, and he had the whole off season with all that popularity around him. And now, you thought this year, I have 0 shares of Soto, but I wasn't against getting him. He just always went a little higher than I was interested in drafting him. I don't know if that excuse really holds water, like the kind of between the ears excuse. I don't know if that really holds water anymore. I don't know. It could be the reason, but we definitely see in his advanced stats some dips, like like, for example, in StatCast, like his XBA, his X slug, his X WOBA, those things are all, they're all supposed to be way better than they have been so far this year.
Right.
But what they're supposed to be is still not what he was in 2019, 2020, 2021.
Yeah, that's correct. And I've got his StatCast page up. I'm kind of looking at some of the indicators here. He said he's been quoted as saying he's pulling the ball on the ground too much. He's grounding out the second base too much. There's some validity to that.
Yep.
Both in terms of the raised ground ball rate, which is up to 54.5%. That's about as high. I think that's as high as it's ever been for him. Although ironically, last year his ground ball rate was pretty darn low at 47.4. But his pull percentage is higher than it's ever been too at 36.4. He is working. He said he's working on trying to get it over the shortstop's head a little bit more. He's also hitting fewer line drives. It kind of follows. In fact, his line drive rate is way low, Fred, at 0.8%. It's either a fly out or a ground ball percentage. He's also striking out more than he's ever struck out before too, at 22%.
Yeah, that's more of a human. I mean, it's so early, right? I know I can hear people listening to this being like, guys, come on, it's still so early. But, I mean, he's getting up close to 100. He's at 78. He'll be at 100 PAs before we know it. Yeah, that strikeout rate of 21.8% is a big jump from the past 3 years. It's the worst of his career. He was at 20 the first couple of years and was still a really good offensive player. Even when Soto was emerging as, like I said, possibly the best hitter in baseball, he still had a ground ball rate that was higher, much higher than we would like. A ground ball rate around 50%, fly ball rates more around 30%. That's not what we really want to see from an elite fantasy player. This year, the hard contact rate's down, kind of checking his Fangraphs page. And like you said, like the line drives are almost non-existent. So it's a lot of ground balls. The average exit velocity's down. His XBA looks very human now and not special. This is a big hole for him to climb out of because it's both a power and a batting average dip. It's not like he's doing one but not doing the other. Oh, he's still hitting 300, but it's a pretty empty batting average so far. Or he's got 6 home runs already or something, but he's hitting 200. Like, it's an across the board dip. Even last year, the power dip was still fairly slight, like 27 homers from 29 the year before. Not a big dip. This year, yeah, everything's down. But now the question is, like, what do you do about it? Right?
Right.
In an NFBC league, you just keep throwing them back out there and cross your fingers. You're not benching Juan Soto under any circumstances. I can't imagine. So in an NFBC league, you're just throwing them back out there. In a trading league, because I know you mentioned that sometimes when you're recording with Scott, like, let's not forget that many of our listeners, including us, do play in some trading leagues. What's fair value for Soto right now?
And that's a tremendous question. So he on average, he was like the 16th player taken. If you are to sell a little lower, I think the Rafael Devers manager is not going to take Soto for him, right? We have to dip a little lower than that. And I'm just looking at hitters. If you have Paul Goldschmidt, who's going through a little bit of a slump of his own right now, do you take Soto for Gold? Do you trade Goldschmidt for Soto? Who says no?
I will still take Goldschmidt. I did not have them very far apart on draft day. Okay. I was probably a little higher on Goldschmidt than the average person. And so far, he's only has 1 home run, but other than that, he's hitting 322. He's got 2 steals. He just could have a couple more home runs. Would make me feel a lot better. But yeah, I'll take Goldschmidt right now because, like I said, I was pretty in on Goldschmidt on draft day.
Okay. Let's see if I can find a better one. Go to our earned auction value. So the thing is, it's going to be, you have to look really far to find where Soto is on this, on the earned auction values, because he's done so little. But
I'm going to look at NFBC ADP and see how low we can go.
Yeah, I have the main event ADP up. Randy Arozarena, pick 37. That's 1 pick higher than, Arozarena's average pick was 37. Soto's max was 36. Whose side are you taking there?
Arozarena.
The rest of the year, you're taking Arozarena. Interesting.
So would you make that trade with me? Would you take Soto?
I think I might.
Okay.
I think that's there's a little bit of faith here. Now I will say this. Is it possible that just pitchers have figured out how to pitch Soto a little bit more? I'll give you, and the reason I ask that is just from a statistical standpoint. it reminds me a little bit of Christian Yelich when Yelich started to decline a little bit. The zone swing percentage is going, pitches in the zone. The swing percentage of pitches in the zone is going down. It was at 60% at one point in time in his career. Average, that was like this floor. Last year's 56.3%. This year, 53%, meaning he's not swinging at pitches in the zone as much as he used to. His contact percentage on pitches in the zone this year is 80.5%. It used to be at 86%. His chase rate is obviously up because of that. He's swinging at more pitches out of the zone. Are more pitchers throwing the sweeper at him? And is he struggling against that? Are they finding a way to fool him a little bit more, or is this just a blip? That's what I want to know. Is this something we can bank on? I don't know how quickly these rates stabilize, and the whip percentage is way up. Whip percentage is up to 27.5%. Last year is 19.2 per point of reference.
Yeah. So we could summarize a lot of that, and he's actually just not playing as well.
Yeah.
He's swinging and missing more often, like you said, at pitches in the zone. That's the big. I'm looking at his plate discipline here on his Fangraphs page right now. Like that's a huge difference. When he's swinging at pitches in the zone, he's missing them, and it may be as simple as that. As far as the batting average changes from him from the past.
I'm kind of talking myself out of this here. I think I'm going to stick with Rosarena. Especially because Rosarena is going to run, and Soto's probably not.
That was part of my thinking, and the Rays. I know the Rays have played over their heads so far, but they look like they're going to have a competent offense.
Yeah,
the Rays lineup going into the year could have kind of gone either way. Could have been good. It's not star-studded. It could have not been good. So far, it looks like it will be a pretty good lineup. Let me just see if I can grab one more. I'm trying to stick in the world of outfielders.
It's hard to find outfielders in that range. You have to.
How about Corbin Carroll? 4 homers, 6 steals already,
and 1 walk now. Congratulations on your first walk, Corbin Carroll.
Yeah, he's got an 813 OPS, which is totally fine. It's not amazing, but it's plenty good enough to have a massive amount of fantasy value, right? Like 813 OPS is just fine because we're not running a real baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like Trey Turner has often given us great fantasy seasons. Last year, 809 OPS, great fantasy season. So Corbin Carroll can have an OPS in the 800s. He can have a great fantasy season as long as he keeps hitting home runs like he has and stealing bases like he has.
11 runs so far.
Yeah.
And the 6 steals, 5 of which I think came against Thor. So he doesn't get to face him anytime in a while.
Hasn't been hitting leadoff even yet. He's been hitting 5th and 6th mostly. So you got to think if he keeps this up, maybe he'll get some chances to hit higher in the lineup.
That's now we're starting to talk in the 40s and 50s here, even with like the late season helium on Carroll.
Yeah.
A lot of FOMO picks on him. Although he did go as early as 30th once. So there is that. After that, I mean, it's hard to find the next, like Luis Robert would be the next outfielder drafted. What's Robert doing so far? I don't have any Luis Robert, by the way. I know he had like 4 homers. He's 5 homers so far.
Okay.
No stolen bases. But 11.
Sorry, I was thinking of who's hurt. Yeah, you're right. If Robert's been.
Yeah, good. Eloy's the one that is hurt.
Yeah, Eloy's hurt. Back. Robert's been good.
Yeah.
857 OPS, 5 homers, 277 average. I know the strikeout to walk's not good for him or Carroll. Okay, I'll say that I'll start first. I'll take Soto over either of these two.
Okay.
I think with Carroll, like he's certainly exciting.
Mm-hmm.
He could steal 40 bases, 45 bases this year. It's totally possible. Just his sample size is so small. The bottom could fall out of this kid at any time, and he could have a massive slump. So a Rosarena to me is a lot more established than Corbin Carroll. And then with Robert, it's just the injuries. Like, I just don't know if I'm ready to investing in Robert as a full year asset. Like, changing my opinion on Robert from the beginning of the season probably doesn't really make any sense, because going into the season, I was like, this guy's a good baseball player who gets hurt too much. Right. So why would that have changed? So far, he's been a good baseball player. So far, he hasn't really had that much time to get hurt. Let's just wait and see. I think Juan Soto, like, I was close on a Rosarena. So I would rather have those like second round type first baseman at this point over Soto, like Alonso, Freeman, like those guys for sure. Goldschmidt, Matt Olson would be an interesting dilemma. He's off to a good start. A little bit BABIP induced though.
Yeah, a lot of strikeouts in that profile.
Yeah, so that would be a tough one. He still is Juan Soto. Like the Arozarena one is tough for me. I think anything lower than that, I think like as far as a hot starter, I think I'm out. I think at that point I'll just stick to my guns on Soto and hope it works out.
Okay.
But these are we talked about this last week about buy low and sell high and how it's not as simple when people are like, oh yeah, buy low, sell high. It's easy. It's not easy because
No.
we're talking right now about Juan Soto. Like you can maybe go get Juan Soto right now, who was a first round pick for a lot of draft season. You can go get Juan Soto right now for Randy Arozarena and maybe in some leagues for Corbin Carroll. So go ahead, buy low and sell high on Corbin Carroll or sell high on Arozarena. But do you actually want to do that? Because it might not make your team better in the long run. So figuring out where your dividing line is on buy low, sell high is the fun of the game.
Yeah, it is. It is. And even more so in a keeper league or a dynasty league.
Yes.
So you really have to make that call because that call is forever. You have to live with it.
I am probably much, much, much more likely to wait Soto out in one of those leagues.
And that's where I have Soto is the XFL. And it's an OBP league at least. So I've got that going for me. But I almost feel like he tries to walk too much. I don't know.
I felt like that about Bryce Harper at times.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't as much anymore. I feel like he's figured out how to be a guy who walks a lot, but is also really good. But there were times where I felt like that with Bryce Harper, where there's that 130 walk season in 2018. And there were times, but he hit 249 that year. And there were times where I was like, I know all these walks are the right thing to do from a baseball perspective, but he would be more valuable from a fantasy perspective if he could turn a few more of those into batted balls, because it would help him get more home runs so I don't know. Yeah, I think the same thing a little bit about Soto. And I know San Diego's not the best park to hit in. There's that, but I don't know. He seems like a good enough hitter. Maybe it takes a few home runs away, but he shouldn't be hitting in the low 200s because of the park.
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
Not like Manny Machado plays there and he plays great. So maybe not this year, actually. So far, he's been just okay. But like Soto is way too good of a hitter to say, well, he's in San Diego, so he can't hit.
Yeah, I agree.
That shouldn't really be the thing with him. Yeah, like I said, it could take a homer or two away, but it doesn't make him a 220 hitter or something along those lines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's tackle a few other slow starters and gauge our panic levels on them. Jose Abreu is hitting 239. He has 0 home runs, 7 RBI, 4 runs scored, despite hitting in front of Kyle Tucker. There's no speed to speak of here. He has 3 barrels all season long. How panicked are you about Jose Abreu?
I'd say fairly panicked. There's someone else that I have no shares of, but I wasn't against drafting him. I just, where he went, there were always just players I like just a little bit more. But my concern with Abreu is that his power disappeared last year.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like Soto, except with Abreu, it's even more concerning because he's 36 years old. And he just went from a team where it's fairly not easy, but easier to hit home runs at their park to a team maybe not quite as easy. So I don't know. This one to me is concerning. I thought maybe he could have like a boring 90 RBI season with the Astros. Like maybe he only hits 20 homers, but he hits 290 or 280 or something. And then because he hits in the middle of a good lineup, he drives in 90 runs. And you're like, oh, it wasn't pretty, but you know what? It got the job done. I'm worried. The walk rate's way down. The strikeout rate's way up. Maybe it's just a slow start from a veteran player, but I think if I had Abreu, I would definitely be open to selling low on him. And different than Soto, I don't think I really want to buy low on him. They would have to be a really good offer. Soto, I'm interested. Like when we were talking about that Arozarena Soto trade, if I had a Arozarena, like I would be thinking long and hard about making it. Even though I said I would take Arozarena, I would be thinking long and hard about Soto. That would be a tough one.
I agree.
Jose Abreu, if I have a first baseman who's, was much later or decently later in drafts, but is off to a good start, I don't know if I'm looking to switch to Abreu right now.
I can't blame you on this one here. I know there was a lot of talk. Well, the Crawford boxes are going to cover this up a little bit. He's going to love those Crawford boxes. Mm-hmm. He and Alex Bregman. Oh, here's another guy struggling too, by the way. In fact, the Astros. I mean, they lit fire last night to Kevin Gausman, but I do worry about a couple of their lineup is not quite as strong. The Dodgers aren't quite as strong. It's interesting to see some of our mainstays kind of struggling a little bit, but I'm legit worried about Abreu. And again, this is another situation where the end of last season was a harbinger to what happened this season.
Yeah. And just when you factor in the age, for me, that makes it, a much bigger deal, right?
Yeah.
That he's at an age where sometimes players do fall off quite quickly. So, and
Would you
last year,
take Rowdy Tellez for Abreu? If someone offered you Rowdy Tellez and his 5 homers so far for Abreu, would you take it?
Yep.
I would too.
I have no Tellez shares, but I was on him in draft season. Like, again, he was another player where, like, I was fine with where he went. I just would often, want to get a pitcher in that round or want to get some steals or something in that round. So I just never ended up with him, but I was fine with where he went. And like you said, he's off to a solid start. I think he's figured out his recipe for success. The lack of shifts should help him. Yeah, I'll take Tellez.
Luis Arias. I saw his name come up in the chat. He does qualify at first. So let's go ahead and bring him up here. ADP was 229. This is 130 picks later than what Abreu was going for. He's got 1 homer, but he's hitting 455. He's a great contact hitter, although his hard hit rates aren't really all that high. Would you accept Luis Arias and just take the loss on Abreu?
No, I think that one's too far a little bit for me. I
might.
Yeah, I guess I can see it. His BABIP this year is 480. So like he is what he is. He's going to hit 300 this year for sure, with probably single digit totals and homers and steals. I do think maybe the single digit totals and homers and steals hurt you more right now because the steals are up, right? And the batting averages will be up. So what he did last year, hitting 316, but with very few homers, very few steals, very few RBIs, like, I think that's more of a problem. That's less valuable, I think, than it was a year ago. So I think I'm going to still double down on Abreu and hope he gets his act together right now. Arias would for sure be the safe option there.
He would be.
Because he is going to do what he's going to do. He's hit 294 or better in all of his major league seasons. He's going to hit 300 for you.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Let's do one more first baseman here among this bunch. Christian Walker. So far, he's hitting 186. He's got 2 home runs, 9 RBI, 5 runs. I mean, the Diamondbacks are doing well. Walker, though, has not done well. And the thing is, he's only had 2 barrels all year. He's not like running unlucky, hitting the ball hard and getting it caught or anything like that either. I know he's a streaky hitter. How worried are you about Christian Walker?
Well, I thought at first you're going to ask me if I'd rather have him or Abreu, and my answer is going to be Abreu.
Okay.
Am I worried about Christian Walker? Yeah, I am a little bit for sure. And I know he was popular in draft season, like a lot of really smart people who are smarter than me and are not me, because I wasn't in on him really, were in on Walker and that he was going to repeat what he did last year. I don't know. I see Walker as someone who's just been like way all over the map in his major league career, right? Like it took him a little while to get in. Like, he had years where he barely played, and then all of a sudden in 2019 he's really good, and then the next year in the shortened season he's like meh, okay, but meh, and then the next year in 2021 he's terrible, and then last year he comes roaring back. He's just been all over the map. Like, I don't really know what to expect from him right now. He will probably get this straightened out and hit about 30 home runs. But like I said, like, I'm just not totally sure if we hit June 30th and Walker has an OPS of 700, like, I won't be that surprised because he's had down years before.
Yeah, he has.
In fact, that's the difference. Sorry, between him and Arias for me is, at least if I traded for Arias, at least I know what I'm getting.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
I stayed away from Christian Walker last year because I was on him in 2 years ago,
right,
and he got let down by him. I always kind of grouped him and CJ Cron together. Wow, little outfield collision there.
Yeah,
Miles Straw and Jimenez there getting tangled up. Not really a collision, but a trip more than anything, which can be just as bad. Jimenez got tripped up, but anyhow, sorry about that. Got distracted by daytime baseball. It's tough with Walker because he could go a 2-month streak where he just carries you too. But I get it there. A guy who we expected a whole lot of more out of so far is Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez isn't killing you. He's got the 4 stolen bases, hitting 290. So he's not killing you, but anyways, but 1 homer so far, 2 barrels so far. His batted ball profile last year wasn't amazing, to the point where Scott Jenstad was talking about, maybe maybe pushing him down below Kyle Tucker if you're given that choice in a draft.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now you can make that case for sure. I'm not worried about Ramirez. If we were drafting again, I would gladly take him in the first round. I
Hmm.
think I'd gladly take him in the first half of the first round.
Okay.
How about 12 walks and 5 strikeouts? Is like that's an amazing rate so
That
far.
is.
So that's good.
And
I
that
mean,
and boosts that boosts stolen bases too. So yeah.
absolutely. So as long as he's still a 20 something steal guy, which he seems like he's on pace to be that right now for sure. As long as he's still a 20 something steals guy, he was someone who projected to benefit from the lack of shifts. And so far he has. His BABIP's up a bit, his batting average is up a bit. Obviously that's helped by the low strikeout rate. But yeah, like if he can be someone who hits around 290 and gets you 20, 25 steals, I think I'm willing to take my time on him and hope that the power comes around, because the power hasn't really been in doubt in recent years. 29 homers last year, 36 the year before. In the shortened season, 17 was one of the best totals. So he had the one blip in 2019 where he only hit 23, but he was hurt a bit that year. The year before 39, the year before 29. His power has been maybe the most consistent part of his profile. So I think I'm willing to, and he's not old, right? He's still just 30. So I would go full value for him. He is someone where if his manager wanted to sell low on him even a little bit, like I would be interested in that.
Yep. And I read that Cleveland is running into more cold weather than any other team in baseball so
Okay.
far too. So that definitely doesn't help, like the batted ball, the exit velocities, things of that nature there too. And K Salazar says like more push up Kyle Tucker. Yeah, I could see that too.
That's right. Yeah. If it's more about, yeah, just feeling like Kyle Tucker has already shown that, with his 1016 OPS, if he's already shown that he belongs, that instead of being he was kind of like the traditional pick six in
Mhm.
all of our drafts this year, pick six,
Right.
pick seven. If he's shown that like is already showing he should have been counted in the top 4 or 5, I totally get that. If someone right now was going to say, oh, I'd take him over Ramirez now, or Julio Rodriguez or whatever, I get that because he was knocking on the door to be in that group anyways.
Yeah, I'd like to see him bat higher in Houston's lineup
Yeah,
there. I
I've
mean,
said
they're
that
top
for years.
4.
I've said that for years. Like I
Yeah.
can't believe that he doesn't bat. Forget that. Yeah, at least in the top 4, if not in the top 3. He does have a couple games batting third this year, but a lot
Yeah.
batting fifth. I don't get it. I just have to assume that with their lineup maybe underachieving a bit, that
Right.
finally straightens itself out.
For sure.
Yeah,
And you got to think, well, Abreu's earning that demotion single-handedly right now, just like Jeremy Pena did. And now Pena's hitting better lower in the
yeah,
lineup. So we'll see about that.
yeah.
All right. One more slow starter, and then we'll hit some other topics here. Gunnar Henderson. You know, we've talked a little bit about him so far. Really frustrating. He's hitting 178. He's got 1 home run, 2 RBI, 1 stolen base, and 12 runs at least. So he is, he's getting on base a little
Yep.
bit, but it's just the hard contact's not there. 2 barrels so far this year, and he's losing some playing time already against lefties.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what happens with Henderson. I don't have any shares, so I feel like I'm pretty unbiased on him. Like, if you have shares of a guy, you're going to find a way to spin this that he's going to stay up because you just need to
Mm-hmm.
believe that he's going to stay up. He's walking a ton. Like, even with the bad batting average, he has a 373 OBP, which kind of screams like you can leave this guy in the majors. He's fine.
Right.
And that's where the 12 runs scored come from. But when you see the 178 average with the 304 BABIP, like his BABIP's not low, and so he hasn't been that unlucky. It's a lot of strikeouts, and like you said, like a poor batted ball profile, and
Yeah.
he's really young. Like he's a 2001 birth date, so I could see a scenario like how much longer, even with a high OBP, if he's still batting 178 in 3 weeks, do they send him down for a little while just to get his confidence back? I'm not saying he's down then for the year, but maybe he's down for a month or
Yeah.
or 3 weeks or something. Get your back going again, and we'll bring you back up.
A lot of blue on his StatCast page. I'm
Yeah,
looking at it right now. Hard hit percentage is light blue. Max exit velocity. X slug is deep blue. XBA is deeper blue. Whiff percentage, outs above average. The only thing it's red is his walk percentage, chase rate, and sprint speed. Like, yeah, okay. And actually his exit velocity when he does make contact. But the problem is he's not making hard contact. That's just the problem.
hmm
So,
lineup spot will be interesting with him going
yep.
forward too. Like he batted fifth a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but we're starting to see some 6, 7s, and 8s. It would make
Yep.
a lot of sense to take a rookie who's a huge part of your future. And he's still, because he is still eligible for rookie of the year, and who's a huge part of your future, and say, you know what, let's take some pressure off this kid while he's struggling. Let's bat him 8th for a while.
Yeah.
And just tell him, like, just, focus on being a good all around player and help the team from that spot. And when your bat comes around, then we'll see where we want to go with it. But yeah, I don't know. I'd be worried about him for sure.
Yeah, I am absolutely a little bit concerned about that. All right. Let's move on. We'll talk about some of the injured pitchers that we saw, some other topical news, a big call up coming up too. But first, as always, have to take care of a little bit of business. We'll start off with our friends at Rival Fantasy. A new MLB season means it's time for a new kind of daily fantasy baseball. Rival Fantasy is the fantasy platform reinventing the way daily and weekly games are played. And they've brought new games to the ballpark this year that fantasy players won't find anywhere else. Rival Fantasy's games include Fantasy Bingo, head-to-head player challenges, and Fantasy Book, where users can select over-unders for 2 to 5 players. With games like this, daily fantasy has never been better. Right now, RotoWire listeners can get a $50 protected first play. That means if you win your first play, you keep your winnings. But if you lose your first entry, Rival Fantasy will fully refund you up to $50. Go to play.rivalfantasy.com/signup and use code RotoWireMLB at signup and deposit a minimum of $20 to get your first entry on Rival protected up to $50. Now's the time to step up the plate and become a Rival today. Welcome to the arena at Rival Fantasy. Again, that's play.rivalfantasy.com/signup, code RotoWireMLB. Also, you might be getting in the mood to go into a game. Baseball is back. Swing into the MLB season with Vivid Seats and score tickets to all the hottest matchups and biggest games of the year. Every crack of the bat, every deep center fly, and every heart-pounding double play of your favorite team, live and in person. Plus, with Vivid Seats rewards, now you earn rewards with every single purchase. Each ticket you buy gets you closer to your reward. Just buy 10 tickets, then simply cash in your credit toward your 11th ticket purchase. It's that easy. Pro reward tip: buy tickets for your whole group, split the bill, and make progress towards your free 11th ticket even faster. From behind the plate to the upper deck, Vivid Seats has great tickets for all the 2023 games that matter to you. Just visit vividseats.com or download the app today. Vivid Seats, experience it live. See vividseats.com/rewards for terms and conditions. Finally, all of our podcasts are on the Blue Wire Network. As always, we play their ads. All right. Thank you for your indulgence with business there. All righty. Let's talk a little bit about some injuries. Everybody's favorite topic.
Yeah.
3 starting pitchers go down yesterday: Corbin Burnes, Jacob deGrom, Hunter Greene. Are you worried about the Corbin Burnes injury?
Yep. Like a little bit, aren't you? It seems like it's on the.
I am too.
I was going to say it's on the right side, but I don't like using that word in that way. It's on the correct side, the preferred side. It's actually on the left side, but it's on the preferred side where
you're such a handist. You're just a handist.
Yeah,
left-handers need a break here.
But. I hate saying, I am a left-hander actually.
Are you? So am I.
I write with my left hand. I throw with my right arm. So I don't know what you want to call it.
You're weird.
I write with my left hand, so I call myself left-handed.
So I write and throw with my left hand, but I bat right-handed and I golf right-handed.
I think that's a fair amount of lefties.
Yeah,
do that. Anyways, so I don't like saying the word right unless it's in when I talk about baseball, unless it's related to the left and the right. So anyways, it's on the preferred side or the correct side for him to have less of an issue. It's the left pectoral strain for a right-hander, and he may make his next start. He's not off to a good start this year. He doesn't need this on top of everything else. So yeah, I'm a little bit worried. Like it just, if you have Burnes as a first round pick and you were hoping for him to like instantly get right back on track, maybe have a couple like 7 shutout inning starts, pull his ratios right back to where you wanted them. Now I'm a little more skeptical that that'll happen right away.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too.
I don't know if I'm selling low on Burnes though at this point. I do think Burnes is the type of player who, if you've already invested in him, I think he's the type of player who can have a dominant stretch and pull his ratios like right to where you want them. So I think I'm still in if I started in.
Yeah. And you know what? I've got Burnes in some spots. He was looking better. He had the great start in Arizona. I was like, okay, he's coming around. But this hurts. This definitely hurts. And the way the Brewers downplayed Brandon Woodruff's injury, and then it's a couple months. obviously my radar is up on this one here.
Yeah, like you said, that Arizona start was encouraging, and you thought to yourself, like, okay, here we go. Now he's going to be fine. A couple more of those. All of a sudden, the ERA's in the threes, and here we go. This is what I wanted. But yeah, I'm a little concerned about that. I'm not concerned. The Woodruff thing to me, I don't know. We talked about the Rays a couple weeks ago about how they do an amazing job with pitchers in all areas except keeping them healthy. So I don't know if there are organizations totally that I trust to keep their pitchers healthy. There's organizations that I think help their pitchers to be successful when they are healthy. I don't know if are there organizations where you think like if the guy goes there, he'll stay healthy?
No, I
Or
don't.
Others where you're like, he won't?
I think more like they'll be more honest with us, perhaps.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The way the Woodruff news came down is not settled well with you.
Yeah. The funny thing is the Brewers are kind of one of the franchises they're not like the LOL Mets or anything like that when it comes to
that's
injuries.
what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Right. I don't, and there's other teams too that seem like they're cursed, or at least it seem like they do things incorrectly. The Brewers don't strike me as that, but yeah. I did feel a little like that injury with Woodruff left me a little salty for sure. So we'll see. Compare that to Jacob deGrom, who left with some wrist soreness. What say you on Jacob deGrom, who had left with a no-hitter?
Yeah. If that doesn't just encapsulate Jacob deGrom's career or last few years of his career right there, leaving with a no-hitter with a sore wrist. He's so good, but then these little things crop up. I'm not worried at this point. I'm not worried. He does not have a history of wrist issues.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're going to treat him with kid gloves this year. He has a 32-3 strikeout to walk. I'm not worried. I think I'm just for now full steam ahead with him, and I don't think I'm being swayed. I have him in labor, but not in any of my other leagues, so I don't think I'm being swayed by investments in him and just wanting to believe that he's fine. I don't know. He hasn't had wrist issue. If this was like a little bit of a shoulder problem, I would freak out, but that's not what it is. So I think I'm okay for now. He even said, I believe it was him or someone with the team said, like, they just wanted to be careful because they didn't want to let the sore wrist cause him to then change knowing all the injuries he's had, to cause him to change his mechanics. And all of a sudden the next day it's the shoulder or his back or something like that because he changed his mechanics to compensate for the wrist. So let's just get him out and then do everything next start, hopefully the way he should.
Yeah, for sure. The thing is, I played DraftKings last night. I play on Tout Nights, the Trout Daily contest that we have. But I decided, okay, I felt a little, felt the yen. Who did I use? Burnes and deGrom. Now I didn't get negative. It's not like it could have been worse. I could have used Gausman. I could have used. Well, I couldn't have used Brayan Bello because I was during the day. But you know what I'm saying. It could have been a lot worse. But
no pitching is always better than bad pitching. That's in the world of hitting, generally just having your players play is the key. Even bad hitting, you're like, well, whatever, he'll straighten itself out tomorrow. In the world of pitching, though, definitely no pitching is better than bad pitching.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I did use bad hitters, unfortunately. Like Mookie Betts did very little. Chris Taylor got hurt. I used like 3 or 4 Dodgers against David Peterson. So of course it was the lefty Freddie Freeman that went deep against him instead. So good job, Jeff. This is why I'm not a DFS pro, among many other reasons. Just I'm not very good at timing the market. The third pitcher injury yesterday was Hunter Greene. Took a ground ball off his leg. He had his, X-rays on his tibia were negative. Looks like he'll make his next start. The injury in and of itself doesn't concern me too much. It was noteworthy that his velocity was down 3 or 4 miles an hour yesterday, and he was throwing fewer fastballs, but it was also really cold. And I think there's a correlation there. Yeah,
I'm saying not worried on Hunter Greene. I don't have any Hunter Greene. I wasn't really in on him coming into the season, but he's done well so far. He has no wins. I still think that just pitching for the Reds is a real uphill battle this year.
It is.
So, I mean, now he's only had 1 start where he even could qualify for a win. Then losing that one 5-4 to Atlanta. So, but either way, I just think the win total is going to be really low for him this year. But if you were in on Hunter Greene, good, you stay in now. Or don't come out because of this. That's for sure.
Yeah. The latest on him is he's going to have his next start pushed back a day.
Okay.
So we'll get an extra day of rest. Levi Stout is going to make his debut tomorrow on a spot start. Luke Weaver, yay! It's going to be activated from the IL to pitch on Thursday. Don't worry, guys. Luke Weaver's here. We're good. All right. Sorry.
Yeah, he of the career 4.79 ERA, which was mostly built up earlier in his career, that 4.79. So
yeah. So
well, there you go. If you're playing DFS tomorrow, go after Luke Weaver.
Yeah. Thursday. But
sorry, Thursday. My bad. Go after Luke Weaver with your hitters.
Yeah, with the Pirates. Who are kind of okay. Have been fine so far offensively. Not great.
Are the Pirates okay? I don't think they really are. Like, I don't think this is a team that is okay in July, right?
No, I don't. And when I say they've been okay, it means they're not bottom 5.
Yeah.
In fact, they're 18th in WRC plus so far this season. So here's a little trivia for you. I did a little bit of this on Twitter. Tampa Bay is first in WRC plus by a wide margin.
Okay.
Who's second?
Who's second in WRC?
And by a pretty comfortable margin over the third place team.
So it's got to be someone, if you're asking me, it's got to be someone unusual.
Yeah, it's a little unusual for sure.
Because I was going to say like the Braves.
Braves are third.
Okay.
Fourth, actually.
Oh, they
only scored 2 runs yesterday, but yeah.
Okay, so who is second in WRC plus? Dead air is not great for a podcast.
Right. I'll narrow it down. American League.
I'm trying to think of some teams that have had some like really high scoring game. Baltimore?
It is Baltimore.
Let's go. I'm never good at trivia guessing games like that. Yeah. Never good. So this is a big win for me. I might hold this all night now.
Yes.
If the Leafs win, if I got that right and the Leafs win in a few hours, this is a great day for me.
All right.
Anyways, what I was going to say is the reason I picked Baltimore, Scott would love this, is I thought back and thought, oh, they
faced the A's.
Yes, that was my thing. I was like, oh, they faced the A's, and I swear they scored at least 8 runs every game. So in this shortened season, yes, that was how I did. When I was going through the teams in my head, I was actually going through the A's schedule in my head.
Yeah, Rays and O's. There you go, on the road, no less too.
Yeah. Because that series, the A's scored in that series too. That series was wild. So
yeah,
a lot of runs on both sides.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It should come as no surprise that the Royals are last and the Tigers are second to last.
Yeah.
The Rockies third to last. If you look at their lineup, you're not surprised, but you think, oh, Coors Field, how could they be so low? But they're bad. They're really bad.
Peak Coors is in April. That's, I find, usually what it was for the Pirates yesterday. But generally, I find peak, I don't know. This is anecdotal. I don't have the numbers in front of me to back it up. But I find April is not peak Coors benefit.
Correct.
Yeah. Which caused me to start Miles Michaelis there in one league last week, and that didn't go well. So I
Fred.
So who am I to talk? It wasn't that terrible, but it wasn't good, and I probably shouldn't have done it. But I do find that April's not peak Coors. I still think the Rockies by the end of the season will have, I'll say if you sort by the end of the season by OPS at home or WRC plus at home, that they'll be in the top 5 or 6, thanks to Coors.
Yeah,
and then bottom 1 on the road, maybe bottom 2.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Same thing as always when the years they don't have a good lineup.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They should be leading the league every year, and they're not.
The years they have a good lineup, they lead the league at home and they're mid-pack or a little worse on the road. And then when they have a bad lineup, they're still pretty good at home, and then they're abysmal on the road. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bullpens. Speaking of the Rockies, Daniel Bard could be coming back.
Yeah, I think.
Today, right?
So is he I don't know if he's the closer right from his first outing. Like he was on the IL with anxiety, not like a sore shoulder. So it might make sense if, like, just thinking about managing people, it might make sense if I manage the Rockies to not put him in a save situation. I would think if I brought a guy back from anxiety, his first outing would be in a game that's like 8-1 or something like that. And let's just get in there and throw strikes and feel good. But I think he can be their closer, but I would want him to have 2 or 3 low leverage outings first. So I think my stance on Bard is I would pick him up, I would bench him, and I'd see how the next week or two goes.
So I have 2 leagues with Pierce Johnson,
Okay.
and I left him in this week.
I could see that. I would
I
leave him in this week.
Yeah, I have 1 league with Bard, kind of with some regrets. It was that February league that, of course, it was our labor league that we're in together there,
Okay.
because I got everybody that got hurt.
That's right.
And I think I left him on the IL this week. I didn't like preemptively activate him. Yeah, that's correct. He's still on my IL this week.
With Pierce Johnson, he's walked 5 batters in 5 2/3 innings, so he hasn't blown any saves. But when you look at his indicators, like he hasn't done much to say, "Hey guys, leave me in the 9th inning." You know?
Right,
So,
right.
so I think Bard, if he pitches well 2 or 3 times out, he gets to go back in the 9th inning, and he was good in that role last year. Like if he's available, I'm going to bid on him in any of my leagues
Mhm.
on Sunday. By the way, in that labor league, I am surprised. I feel like all of your pitchers almost have been injured, and then I look and see that you traded away a pitcher. I I
Yeah.
I like it. You liked the trade for value. It's April. Like you liked the player you were getting, Mateo, over the
Yeah.
player you were giving up, Giolito. I think that more people need to do that. That is a creative approach to trading. It's April. You can now make additional trades where you trade away a hitter to get a pitcher if you think that's what you need. But I like how you didn't let your hands be tied by the fact that like 7 of your pitchers have been hurt already. To
Yeah, and
say,
the amazing thing is I have 20 more pitching points than I have hitting points
there you
right
go.
now.
Yeah,
Well, and in the background is I lost O'Neill Cruz and Corey Seager within 3 days of each other.
that's bad.
That's not fun.
Hmm.
Paul Goldschmidt has 1 home run.
Hmm.
Jose Miranda does not have a homer so far this year. Uh, Tristan Casas has been terrible. Jordan Alvarez is fine. I like him. We'll keep him. Jake McCarthy is a big slumper so far, and
Oh,
I probably should have
so
known better.
frustrating. I'm
Yeah,
worried. I'm worried.
I'm very worried.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not getting any steals or power. So at least with Mateo, I can get some speed.
Yep.
And so I took the chance. So Joe, I think I lamented my Cruz and Seager combo enough times. So Joe's like, I've got a lightly used Jorge Mateo here. And he wants to trade for value too. So, I offered Giolito after some consternation, and he came back and tried to get Jesus Luzardo from me, and I said no on that pretty quickly. Even though Luzardo wasn't good yesterday, I'm happy with that decision. I do still like Giolito, but I think he's still trying to find it a little bit.
Yeah, for me, it was a really cool, fun trade because I don't know how to value either one of, like, it's tough to value both of these guys. Like
Right.
Giolito has a really good 16-3 strikeout to walk, but he also has a 6 ERA. So that's not good. And a 1.67, I think it is whip. So yeah, 1.67. That's not good either. So like he's been good on his service stats are bad. His stats under them, they're kind of solid. And then
Yeah.
Mateo's been awesome, but like from a hitting perspective, has not been a very good hitter in his career. So
No.
are we taking 2 weeks or are we taking the whole career? He's still young enough that maybe he's figured something out a bit. I don't like
I don't think he's figured
you
anything
don't
out.
need him to keep having an 1,000 OPS to be really valuable in fantasy. You just need him to play well enough to stay in the lineup every day.
Right.
That's it. If he stays in
I'm
the
just
lineup
trying to
every day,
gain 7 points of steals.
yep,
That's all I'm trying to do here. And
yeah,
you
I
know,
yeah,
I felt like I can find pitchers on the waiver wire all throughout the season. I can't
yep.
find shortstops on the waiver wire all throughout the season. There are some that I could pick up, and I did actually pick up another one too. But like Zach Neto was available. I didn't, but it allowed me to be kind of a little calmer on my pickups there. I did pick up JP Crawford just to have another shortstop eligible guy, which might turn out to be prescient because Chris Taylor got hurt last night. So we'll see about him. Chris Taylor is a very odd duck, by the way, this year. 4 homers. Yay. Hitting 125 with 18 strikeouts. Not yay.
And not everything on the Dodgers has turned to gold this year. So
No.
so I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. They're the Dodgers. I still think they'll come around, but I'm not 100% sure that Chris Taylor is actually really good. He's a cool guy for the Dodgers because he can play like 5 positions, and that helps over a long season in a real baseball sense. But he also hit 221 with a 677 OPS last year. He had
Exactly.
he had some years way early in his career where he wasn't very good. Had some good years with the Dodgers, but again, his value to the Dodgers is accentuated by the fact that he can play a lot of positions, which
Yeah.
does not really it helps us in fantasy and where we put him in the lineup, but it doesn't get us any fantasy points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about we're talking closers here. How about Andrew Chafin, full-time closer?
Close. I'd say close. I'd say not full-time closer because there will be some situations where it just makes total sense to use him in the 8th inning. You have a couple great left-handed bats coming up in the 8th inning, and they say let's use him here. But I would say he's I'm trying to think of someone to compare him to off the top of my head, and I can't come up with someone. But I'd say he's close to a full-time closer.
Yeah, they're going to use him at times in the 7th and 8th when there's key lefties coming up or just a key situation. They really need Joe Mantiply back to give them another option, because right now they don't trust Scott McGough or really anybody else. So Chafin's kind of their fireman.
I'll set an under/over on Andrew Chafin saves this year at 24. Which way do you want to go?
Slightly under. I was setting mine at 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I picked him up in a couple of places, and I'm very happy to have him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'm pegging the Diamondbacks as not the quality of a team that will trade for a closer. So I'm thinking like the bullpen you see is kind of the bullpen you get for them this year. Like if they were a great team, I'd say, well, there's a pretty good chance that by August he's back to a setup role and they've traded for some other team's closer for a playoff run. I just don't see that. Right. So I think this is what it is as far as their bullpen goes. So yeah, I mean, we're both seeing it similarly. Maybe I set it at 24. We're both seeing like other relievers maybe get whatever, a dozen saves. He gets 2/3 of the saves. The other relievers get a third, something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Which nowadays is a closer. It's not quite Emmanuel Clase. It's not quite Kenley Jansen, but that's what a closer is on a lot of teams nowadays.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. Braves. Let's talk Braves. They've won 7 in a row. They provide save opportunities. AJ Minter is coming. Just got his 4th save. Raisel Iglesias
he's throwing. He's
throwing through a bullpen session yesterday.
That's right. Yeah, okay, he's throwing a bullpen sessions. So what do you think as a reliever throwing a bullpen sessions 3 weeks away? He didn't play. He hasn't played yet this year. Like he didn't get a full spring training in. 3 weeks away?
At least 2.
Yeah.
At least 2.
I'm thinking you're right. He could go out on a rehab assignment maybe by the end of the week.
Because he's a reliever, it's short. It's not like he needs to get stretched out to be able to throw 2 innings, 3 innings at a time,
Yeah.
Let alone 6, like a starter.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably 3, but possibility of 2. I put it in that range for sure, barring setbacks, of course. I will say this. I'm going to throw one other name out while we're talking about Minter and Iglesias. Have you seen what Nick Anderson's done so far?
Yep. I have Nick Anderson on my Tout Wars team.
Oh, good.
Isn't that kind of random? Not random. I picked him, but I'm saying like it's draft and hold. Like I'm saying like round 45-ish.
Yeah.
Round 43. I don't know. As I was scouring through relievers late, he was sitting there. I did some reading on him. Everybody, I don't have to tell most people listening to this. Nick Anderson used to be awesome.
Yep.
Right. 2019, 110 strikeouts and 18 walks in 65 innings.
Yep.
So I knew he was healthy. I knew he was competing for a spot on the Braves. At the time, the plan was for him to open the season in the minors. I was like, that won't last long if he's good in this baseball era. Every team, has reliever injuries. So anyway, so I grabbed him. He has 1 save. He has been maybe their best. He's probably been their best reliever so far, like 11 strikeouts and 1 walk and 7 2/3. Minter's been really good. Minter's their guy. Like I picked up Minter in a league or 2 when Iglesias was out because I just felt like last year when they needed a closer at one point that they just went straight to Minter, and I felt like they would do that again, and they have. But Nick Anderson could be their best reliever.
Yeah, he's really good. It gives them that depth. It gives them the opportunity to kind of ease Iglesias in for that matter too, if they want to.
Yeah, like peak Nick Anderson is like his best year or 2 is about as good as any reliever that's currently in baseball's best year or 2. Like in the strike shortened season, he gave up 1 run. So he had 26 strikeouts and 3 walks and gave up 1 run. He had a .55 ERA. Like him at his absolute best is really, really good. And we've seen this before with some of these guys. If you're really good, even if you have a major injury and you miss a lot of time, he is older than I thought he was, before I looked him up when I was drafting him, but he's 32, totally young enough to have several good reliever years still. Yeah,
Yep.
he could be their best reliever. I'm not picking him up yet in a regular fantasy league, but I'm not totally ruling it out either. I'll wait and see kind of what his leverage role is soon. Like, I still think Minter's kind of, he's the guy, and then when Iglesias comes back, he's the next guy. But I want to see where Anderson fits in and all that.
I agree.
Yeah.
You got news coming out of Tampa Bay, unfortunately. Jeffrey Springs is going to undergo Tommy John surgery. So this escalated really quickly, as Kev Masarajan said in my group chat. I'm in Scarf. It's one of our leagues together there. Southern California area rotisserie fantasy. I don't know what its Scarf stands for, but there's a barf, there's a scarf, there's a nerf. It's all these leagues together. We're the Southern California version anyhow. So he mentioned that there, but bad news with Springs, who was looking so good in those 3 starts. Gross.
That's a bad one. I think I have 1 share of Springs. At least it's a cut, and now I don't spend a long time like holding them on my IL for, and then they tell you this in 6 weeks. But
I'm gonna leave them on my labor IL just for like.
Oh yeah, you got to cheer the team on.
Posterity's sake, there, just to remember him.
Yeah, you just want him around the clubhouse. I've done that with a lot of players in labor and in tout wars over the years. If he's a good guy and he felt like he was a good part of the team before he got hurt, just want him around the clubhouse.
Yeah, it's a tough look though, because I started with Verlander, and then I waited for a while on starting pitchers. Right. Got Giolito, Luzardo, and Springs. Traded away Giolito already, so and now I'm down to Luzardo, and yet I'm still trading away starter. Go figure. But
yeah,
big
news for those who invested heavily in Taj Bradley. I was not one of them, but now the runway is pretty clear for him, right?
Yeah. Glasnow's coming back, and Eflin's coming back, so he's still got to kind of earn it. But yesterday's result with Jalen Beeks on the mound might encourage the Rays to stick with Bradley a little longer too.
I mean, and I mean, if you're basically SP6 in your organization, and SP5 is Glasnow, who's still weeks away, and SP4 is Eflin, who's still on the IL, I just got to think that somehow things shake out so that he can.
Agree.
Someone else will be hurt, but like, I think I did not get any Bradley. I think I should have bid more heavily. Most of the places where he was bid on in my leagues, like I saw where you won him in the AL league, I thought that was a very, very fair price in an AL league.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the prices in most of my mixed leagues were almost like your price in the AL league.
Same.
And I will go higher on a starting pitcher, I think, than you will. I know you've said kind of like you don't like to go too high on a starting pitcher. I will go higher, but I don't know. Maybe I should have. The height that they went to when we're talking like 250, 280, 300, I don't know if I very, very rarely ever gone there on a starting pitcher.
And it's tough to trust the Rays because, I mean, let's face it, they sent Bradley down after his 1 start, even though it looked like there's going to be a need for a second.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And what plan will they have to manage Bradley's innings this year? So, yeah, I just didn't go that high. I don't know if I fully regret it, but if you did take the plunge, I mean, now, like I said, I think there's a chance that his talent can take over, and he can have that spot the whole way. And we'll see where all this goes with the Rays. Like that we already brought up now a couple of times, injuries to their pitchers. They look like such a good team right now, but even the Rays, there has to be some amount of pitching injuries they can take and still go along at this level. And they've just lost one of their best pitchers for the season.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. We talked about Bradley. Let's talk about 2 other call-ups. One that's gotten the call, has already played a game, and that's Brett Beatty. The other is Oakland is going to get the call for Mason Miller. Let's start with Beatty first, and then we'll talk a little Miller.
I'm optimistic. I listened to you and Scott talk about Beatty yesterday. I feel pretty much the same way you guys do. I think this kid is a good all-around hitter. He can get on base. There's some power there. As far as fantasy goes, there's not really base stealing. He'd already stolen a couple in AAA this year in his first 9 games, but he only stole 2 last year, 6 the year before. So there's not much, even with the enhanced rules. I don't think he's more than like a 5 steal guy in the majors, but there's some pop. There's some ability to hit for average. The Mets have a good lineup. I know he batted 8th right off the top. That's kind of like what I was saying about Gunnar Henderson. Like, I feel like maybe the Mets have enough star players that you just stick him there. But if he's hitting well, I think he could easily bat 5th or something in the lineup.
I think
Or
there's some similarity between he and Michael Harris, who batted ninth for a good chunk of the year for the
yeah,
Braves last year and still had provided a
yeah,
lot of value.
yeah. Harris has the steals, right? That Beatty's not going to have,
Correct.
but I don't know. I have only one share of Beatty. I picked him up in one NFBC league the week
Hmm.
before, or 10 days, or the week before he got called up. So he had someone had dropped him in the first fab run, and I was like, oh, I'll throw like $40 at him and see if I can stash him until,
Nice.
yeah, which has worked out. Well, it's worked out, and then he's up. We'll see how he plays, but
Right.
I'm pretty excited about that. I just think he's someone who can stay the whole time. They have a clear Eduardo Escobar can't do it.
Yeah.
Like
The
they have
game
a
theory was
clear
good.
opening.
You got the game theory right. Now we'll see if we
Yeah,
got the player
yeah.
right.
I just
Yeah.
think with Escobar, like there's no coming back now. They gave Escobar with Escobar, there was this whole narrative that he had the off-field problems last year, and his head would be clear this year, and he would
Hmm.
would be good again. But I think it was clear right from spring training and at the start of the season that I think he's just done. I don't think he's a good player anymore. Forget the off-field stuff. I just don't think he has it anymore. He can be a backup infielder for them.
Right.
I just don't think he can be an everyday player on a playoff team anymore.
I think you're probably right.
Beatty can be. The Mets are obviously going for it.
Hmm.
I would rather have Beatty than Francisco Alvarez, who got some massive bids in Fab a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think Beatty could be there now the whole season.
So the league where I have Beatty, I drafted him.
Yeah,
Live Vegas main event, NFBC main event, and I almost cut him, and then I got talked out of it by Tim Schuler, my partner, and by Scott Jenstad. They both had more sense than I did in that situation. But it's frustrating to hold that spot. You got
yep.
to hold that spot while you're waiting. Like, is he going to be down for 2 months? Is he going to be down for 2 weeks? And it was closer to 2 weeks, so that was good at least. Mason Miller going to get the call for the A's, and he's been really good so far. The A's have been really bad. 135 runs allowed so far this year. Worst in baseball by over 30 runs to the next team. It's a really awful pitching staff. He can there's definitely room for him, but how is he going to fare? And it's like drafting Reds pitchers. I mean, you're not going to get a whole lot of support there.
That's right. That'd be my concern with him. Like he definitely looks like a good young pitcher. His minor league numbers are excellent. Well, 53 strikeouts in 28 and 2/3 career minor league innings. That's pretty good. But 2 strikeouts an inning, not bad. So there's definitely plenty of upside there. It's how well can he do with the A's and how bad that team is.
Mhm.
Also, I'm going to look at. So I'm not super familiar on Miller because he was just called up. Well, just he hasn't even been called up. The story of him getting called up just came out this afternoon, but he only threw 14 innings in the minors last season. So I just need to look at what kind of innings total do I think he'll be allowed to log this year?
Right. That's a good
Is
concern.
it's going to be something where he's up, like they don't care. The A's absolutely don't care at this point. Like it's just gonna be something where they let him run with a job in the majors for a while and then shut him down like really, really early. But
Yeah.
either way, pitching has been so hard to come by, effective pitching this year, that if he's an effective pitcher, I want him. It's just a matter of when we get to Fab next weekend, so much of it will be driven by how he fares on Wednesday.
Right.
If he fares well though, and the bids are like $200,
I
like am
won't
I
get him.
willing to pay $200 for an Oakland A's pitcher? I don't think so.
Answer's clear no for me there.
Yeah.
Um,
Would I pay 100 if he looked good on Wednesday? Maybe. Which
yeah.
like let's say on Wednesday he goes out and he throws 5 innings and he gets 7 strikeouts and gives up a run or two. Like
Yeah.
good start. Would you give him 100?
Uh, Probably not still. He's 25 years old. He missed 5 months last year with a shoulder issue.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's
I
an
think
A's
no.
pitcher.
I think no. You're right. I think no. I think even if he starts well, the strikeout potential is just so great, but I worry about the innings potential so much that I think the best I'm doing is throwing, if he had a good start, maybe I'm throwing a keep you honest bid of
Yeah.
$40 or something to make sure. There's two different.
Classic Fred second place
So
bids. Yeah.
so actually, I can, and this is my word of the day. I can parse this out for you, as I said earlier. There you go. I just used it one more time. There's a difference between and keep you honest bid and a finished second place bid. The keep you honest bid is just, I don't want anyone stealing Mason Miller in my league for $10. So I'm going to throw 40 at him because I'm just going to keep you honest. My second place bid is more of a, like, I actually want this guy. I just want to be careful that I don't overpay for him. So I'm going to bid like $80 on Mason Miller. And if someone wants to go over 80, I don't care. But I actually do want him. So there's my differentiation between I keep you on, like last weekend, I keep you honest on Taj Bradley was probably like 75, 80. But I want him, but I'm not willing to go overboard, was probably more like 130 or something like that. So 120, 130. Same with Zach Neto last Sunday. Like, I'd say my keep you honest on him was probably like 20, 25. Like, I just don't want anyone getting a full-time player possibly for nothing. And
Right.
then, but if I wanted him, then my second place bid target would have been more like 70, something like that. And then I'm like, well, if someone wants to pay $100, they can have him.
Yeah.
Anyways, now I just parsed out the difference for me between a keep you honest and a try to finish second bid.
All right. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Try to get second is actually hoping you win.
You are. You're hoping you win. You're just not. You hope you win. You're just not desperate. So you're not going to just throw there. And then there's moments where I'm just desperate. Like a new closer's emerged. I have no closer. I'm throwing 250 at him, and I want to win. Right. So that's I hope to finish second means I want this player, but I'm not desperate enough. I'm not going to lose my judgment.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good. I think that's a good way to finish, by the way, today. I think that's a good closing point. I know there's other names on our outline, but there's always other names on our outline.
Always other names. So much going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have lineups to set, play, Lance Lynn to react to being stinky again, things like that. So there you go. Big thanks to our sponsors. Appreciate them coming aboard for both Vivid Seats as well as Rival Fantasy. Appreciate their sponsorship as always. Thank you guys for listening. James Anderson will be back at you tomorrow, and then I'll have a guest to be named later for Thursday. Thanks for listening. Take care.